Hey guys, what's going on? It is Cruzavi here, back with another video, and today we are going to talk about how to actually improve your aim for Valorant. The main focus of this video will be on raw aim, but I'm also going to talk a bit about other game-specific skills that are relevant to your aim, such as crosshair placement and movement later in the video. Something I want to say in the beginning is that personally I'm someone who thinks and reflects a lot about the fields that he is passionate about, and aiming certainly is one of those. There are definitely people out there who just play the game and improve naturally up to a very high level without thinking much about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and that's totally fine. And if you're one of those people, then this video might seem very overthought and overcomplicated to you. However, if you are like me and you sometimes hit bumps in the road and get stuck at plateaus that you don't seem to know how to overcome, then this might be exactly the video you need. Because I've certainly hit those plateaus, and it took me time, research, as well as trial and error to find out what holds me back from improving further and what works for me to actually improve. And I will share all these little secrets, if you can call them that, with you in this video. It's a long one and has a lot of input, but if you're serious about improving your aim, then please take the time and watch it all the way through. I'm sure that it's going to be worth it. So let's finish this very long intro and get started. I'm not going to dive into detail here about why aim trainers such as Kovacs and aim labs are useful, because there are plenty of arguments that speak for them, and I will link you some resources in the description down below if you're interested. By now, the aiming community has turned the topic into a science almost, and there are a bunch of different aiming techniques that are being differentiated. To keep it a bit more simple, I will talk about the categories static clicking, dynamic clicking, tracking, and target switching. And in order to illustrate the upcoming technical tips, we recorded some clips with an eye tracker for this video, so you can see where the vision focus is at all times. Unfortunately, the calibration is not 100% accurate though, which is why the eye tracker circle is located a bit too high in some of the clips, so don't get confused by that. Of course, we're looking right at the target. Static clicking is probably the most simple scenario, yet it can feel so complicated to improve at it from a certain point onwards. The basics first. In order to eliminate static targets as fast as possible, you need to do two things. You need to flick to the target with a fast and sharp motion, and you then need to micro adjust if your crosshair is off. You don't want to do any more movements than that, and you want both lines to be as straight as possible towards the target. The initial flick should be as fast as possible while still being in control. You don't want your crosshair to shake at the end, and to my personal understanding, you can reduce that shakiness as follows. Firstly, you need to adopt the mindset that your initial flick doesn't need to land on target. Of course, it's perfect if it does or lands at least close, but your body is going to do that and improve at it if you trust it. So don't worry about landing close, don't try to force a precise flick, just flick. Secondly, you need to always know which target you're going to flick towards next. If you see 3 targets and think, I will kill these 3 targets next, it will mess with your aim because you're missing target focus. Instead, you should focus on eliminating target 1, then target 2, and then target 3, and increase your speed by making the transition of focus between the targets faster. Thirdly, as I have already talked about target focus, this is a major factor in aiming in general, and I feel like it gets overlooked in static targets because they don't move. However, if you lack focus on the target you're trying to eliminate, your initial flick will end with more shakiness and your micro adjustment will be slower and less precise. This is especially true for challenging flicks between targets that are quite far apart. From the wobbles in the eye tracker, you can see that it takes a brief moment to regain target focus in these situations. Reducing the time it takes to regain that focus is definitely an aiming skill that you should work on. Your muscles need precise input from your eyes and brain on where the target is, and they need that input as fast as possible. So something I thought about lately is that it's not necessarily about how fast you can flick with your hand, but more so how fast you can flick with your eyes and your target focus. And you can see that as well from the eye tracker. The steadier the circle, the easier the eliminations. And the wobblier the target focus becomes, the more misses happen. So my advice would be to string together line after line between targets, always focusing on one at a time. And by sharpening your mechanical skill and reducing the delay between targets, you will improve. I would be very interested to hear in the comments from those of you who struggle with static dots after trying these tips out and seeing if it makes things easier for you, because it certainly does for me. So that was a lot for static clicking. Dynamic clicking is a bit more straightforward for me. You still want to flick between targets, especially when there is a bigger distance to cover, but you don't need to be as fast. By having your transitions between targets smoother, it is easier for you to pick up the movement of a new target. With dynamic targets, it's all about target focus once again. If you have your eyes truly locked on target, your brain will understand its movements much better, and therefore your muscles will know how to move your mouse. So after your initial transition to the target, you want to pick up its movement as fast as possible and then track that movement for the briefest amount of time possible to then click and eliminate it. The key is finding the balance between speed and precision. Don't mindlessly flick between targets, but also don't track them for seconds without ever finding the courage to shoot. With time, practice and better target focus, the targets are going to appear like they are moving slower and more predictably, and you're going to eliminate them just as if they were standing still. Tracking differs from the other two scenarios because there is only one target and your goal is to keep your crosshair on the target as best as possible to maximize your DPS. What you need to learn is to match the target's speed and direction with a smooth tracking movement and then readjust to the target quickly once it changes direction. After the quick adjustment, you transition into smooth tracking again. Someone once said in a video to think of it as a hiccup. Smooth tracking, hiccup, which refers to the quick adjustment, and then smooth tracking once again. I remember that helped me back then. Now, the harder the target movement is to predict and follow, the more shaky your aim is probably going to get, and here's how to fix that. Firstly, you want to track the target's current direction under the presumption that it's never going to change direction. Of course it will, and you will adjust to that, but it's important that you don't anticipate and start to predict direction changes, because then your crosshair movement is going to become a nervous, jittery mess because you're all the time correcting. Secondly, and I know that by now you're probably going to be tired of hearing it, but you need target focus. For tracking, more than for any other aiming technique, you need to soak up as much information as possible about the target. Where is it moving? How fast is it moving? Is it accelerating or slowing down? Think of it as aiming with your eyes. Your eyes observe the movement, your brain makes information of it, and your muscles simply follow. They will do that by themselves with practice. You don't need to tell them to be smooth or precise or whatever. You just need to let them do their job. Target switching is a mixture of dynamic clicking and tracking. You need to switch between targets, but also track each target for a short amount of time. The key here is switching as fast as possible between targets, but also picking up on the new target's movement as early as possible. So I would recommend focusing a little bit more on smooth transitions. Always decide on one specific target that you're trying to kill next and get it into focus. This will allow you to have little wasted movement between your big adjustments and the tracking part. Now, with all these different aiming techniques and aim trainer scenarios available, what exactly should you practice? In my opinion, beginners and medium advanced players from ranks Iron to Platinum can benefit from a well-balanced routine that includes every kind of scenario. because you're trying to improve overall mouse control and learn the fundamentals of aim. I will leave the links to Voltaic and their benchmarks in the description down below. You can use those to determine your current skill level in aiming and find a routine with exercises that suit your level. Voltaic is an aiming community and they have put together great training resources. For advanced to high-level players, it can definitely make sense to practice specific aiming areas that they are still struggling with. You should record some of your Valorant matches and take a look at what is actually happening and what you're struggling with. Do you have difficulty tracking the opponent's counter strafes? Then practice dynamic clicking and tracking. Are your micro adjustments off and therefore you miss easy headshots on crouching targets, for example? Then practice small static targets and work on that. Of course, raw aim is not all that matters in Valorant. Game-specific skills such as crosshair placement, strafing and recoil control play a major role as well and must work together with your raw aiming skills. They are best practiced on the range and in deathmatches. For the range, I would recommend a mixture of killing practice bots while strafing and bursting and then eliminating medium and hard bots with proper flicks and micro adjustments. I will also link a video to the Valorant specific practice routine from Team Liquid pro player Nats in the description down below. In deathmatches, you want to work on your movement, crosshair placement and gun control. We have a lot of videos already on these topics and they are all linked in the description down below. Use deathmatches to get your mechanics as clean as possible and apply the techniques you practiced in aim trainers and on the range. Deathmatches act like a connection to transfer your skills into competitive matches because you can practice realistic Valorant gunfights with all the game-specific mechanics involved. I know that all these different exercises seem like a lot. At the end of the day, you should put together a 30 minutes to 1.5 hours practice routine depending on what you can regularly implement into your day. It's impossible to tell you exactly which exercises to do because I don't know your skill level and weaknesses. But I have put together a 1-week training plan with exemplary exercises that you can adjust depending on your current skill level. If you put together a good plan and follow it religiously, you will see results. I can promise you that. Last but not least, let's talk about your mindset when practicing. For me, there are two key factors in the way you conduct your aim training: concentration and consistency. Try to put your best effort into each run and push yourself to do better than yesterday. Concentration is very important and without it, your thoughts are going to drift, you're going to lose target focus and you're just going to play on autopilot, which is not what you want during practice. Next to concentration, consistency is often underestimated. I realized that myself lately. It's very easy to feel like you're playing a lot and aim train regularly. But are you actually putting the time in every single day or do you only train 2 to 3 times a week? My routine is around an hour long and lately I've been doing it every day that it was possible to fit the time in. And the results were very motivating as I was able to break some plateaus that I was stuck at for months already. So don't get discouraged by bad days or bad performances, just keep going. Consistency really is key and with time the improvement and the results will come, trust me. Now we have one final step left in becoming Ye himself, transferring your skills from practice into competitive matches. In a game like Valorant, that is actually not that easy and is something I definitely struggle with myself. So in part 3 of this series, we're going to take a detailed look at which factors are important to playing your best when it matters. It will be linked right here once it is released. Until then, make sure to check out our other Valorant guides, they are all linked. I will talk to you all in the next video. See you then, much love, peace!